Hello everyone, my name is Valerie Torres. I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I'm a business and international relations student at La Salle University. I am going to talk about the historical relationship between Colombia and the Philippines. The Philippines and Colombia somehow share some common cultures in terms of religion, cuisine, and much more. They have had a history of peace negotiations in which they have held talks to peacefully resolve their long-standing insurgency problems with Muslim and communist rebel groups. In 2012, the Philippines reached a peace agreement with the rebel Moro Islamic Liberation Front, while the Colombian government began peace talks in Oslo with the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. Both countries, which face a similar challenge, have made efforts to reach out to political leaders who oppose negotiations, have exchanged visits to create professional and political networks, and have established peace processes that have made them shine as examples of innovation and negotiation for the world. The two countries have maintained trade relations since 1995. The countries have held bilateral consultative mechanisms (BCM) meetings over the years to discuss their commitments to enhance their cooperation in areas such as trade and investment opportunities, climate change, disaster risk reduction and management, among others. Colombia is not officially part to the ASEAN forum, but has appointed an ambassador to ASEAN. In 2016, the Pacific Alliance and ASEAN adopt a cooperation document between the two mechanisms with emphasis on economic, educational, sustainable development, science and technology issues. As a result of this bi-regional dialogue, the Pacific Alliance ASEAN Work Plan for the years 2017 to 2018 was extended until December 2019 and under the presidency of Colombia in the second half to 2020 continued. Colombia submit to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, President pro tempore of ASEAN 2020, the request for accession to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, or TAC. The purpose of the TAC is to promote peace, friendship, cooperation, and peaceful coexistence, to strengthen solidarity, a close relationship and full cooperation in the economic, social, cultural, and technical, scientific, and administrative fields, to accelerate economic growth and the expansion of trade among the peoples of Southeast Asia, Argentina, Brazil, and as of 2019, the Republic of Peru are already adherents to the TAC.
Hello, everyone. My name is Luis Eduardo Diaz Bernal, and today I talk about the relationship between Colombia and Philippines regarding imports and exports. So, we found that the total value of exports from the Philippines to Colombia in 2019 it was about $50.3 million. And in addition, according to the latest data, the trade value of exports from the Philippines to Colombia last July 2020 amounted to $1.6 million. We found also that the total value of Philippines exports to the world it was in 2019 of $63 million. The value of Philippines exports to Colombia it was of $51 million. We also found that the total value of Colombia imports it was for $43 million, and the value of Colombia imports from Philippines it was $51 million. So we find too that, as you can see in the chart, you can see that the chart shows the total trade value of imports and exports of the Philippines in September 2019 and 2020, respectively. The data shows that in 2020, the imports totally roughly an estimate of 60% of Philippines trade, while the exports are around roughly 40% of the total. So we also found that as percentage of the Philippines exports, the exports from Philippines to Colombia, it was for 0.008%, and as percentage of Colombia's import, it was for 0.11%. The main products, as you can see in this chart, are the office machine parts. That means that the main products that Colombia imports from Philippines in 2019, it was office machine parts with a percentage of 46.7%. The video displays with a total of 12.4% of the total, and the electrical transformers with 8.1% of the total. Also, we can see that the trend in the past 5 years for the parts exports during the 2011 and 2015, the total trade during 2014 was the highest with a value of $40 million exports, being higher in 2014, and imports being higher in 2013. Uh, um, During the last 20 years, the exports of Philippines to Colombia have increased at an annualized rate of 12.2% from 3.2 million dollars, and in 1995 to 50.3 millions in 2019. The latest trend for Philippines trade is the Philippines trade deficit decreased to 2.42 billion in January 2021 from 3.50 billion in the same month a year earlier. Exports fell by 5.2% year on year to 5.49 billion, while imports dropped at a faster 14.9% to 5.2% year on year to $7.91 billion. So basically, that are the estimates. You can see this chart, the trend in the past 5 years, also in the future 5 years. It may expected that in the future 5 years, trade exports will decrease according to the trade and economics. Exports from the Philippines dropped by 2.3% year on year to 5.31 billion in February 2021.
So this is the trade of Colombia to the Philippines, mainly the export from Colombia to the Philippines. So the total value of Colombian exports is 31,056 in millions of dollars. $3 million of which is Colombians export to the Philippines. In 2019, Colombian exported a total of 8.15 million to the Philippines. The trade value of Colombian last March 2020 amounted to 886,000. This resulted in a negative 21.35% as percentage of Colombian exports and 0.0035% as percentage of Philippine imports. So um, the main products that Colombia exported to the Philippines in 2019 were pesticides at 3.94 million, packaged medicaments at 1.1 million, and bandages 423,000.
So here are their trends. For the past 5 years, Colombian product imports from the Philippines in 2014 had a total of 58,777.85 thousand, with major imports of machine and electronic products, capital goods, and consumers. Although there was a drop of import trade and it recovered in the next few years. The top import products been consistent over the years with machines and electronic products being number two. This is the table that shows its import of goods and export of goods, plus their import of services and export of services. Next slide, please. So the following table shows Colombia's national trade summary. As you can see on the 2019 table, it was the Philippines in terms of imports and exports percentages, roughly and 40% respectively. Volume index estimated of 3% for imports and 6% of exports for the year 2020. Next 5 years, that the future of as of imports to Colombia fell 0.7% over year to 3.88 billion in January of 2021, following a 1.6 increase in the previous month amid resurging global infections according to trading economics. So you can see in the table that their volume of export of goods and services and their imports of goods and services decrease will slowly increase in the next coming years from 2021 to 2024. So this is their balance of trade. Colombia's trade deficit rose to 1.11 billion in December of 2020 from 0.75 billion in the corresponding month of the previous year. Exports fell 9% over 3.03 billion amid lower sales of fuels and products, which is negative 30.1%. The most import-export partners were the US, amounting to 20% of total sales, China 9.5%, Brazil 5.2%, and Ecuador at 4.8%.
Analysis. According to Dr. Serafino Rodolfo, the Undersecretary for Industry Development and Trade Policy, these are some key points in the trade policies of the Philippines. The strategy is a robust industrialization policy. The industrialization policy is one that deepens and expands local value chain. Its biggest incentive is our domestic market. Requirements are largely met by imports. The biggest challenge is the expand. This is a direct result of the dynamic growth of our economy and our despite growing at impressive rates for the past 6 years. To fulfill domestic requirements, if we continue opening markets and securing preferential tariffs for our exporters, we will not be able to address the deficit if we do not deepen our industrial capability. The Philippines is giving industrialization, and this is to expand our capability as a partner to other countries. According to the International Trade Center, Colombia has been a member of the WTO since 1995, and it applied the average MFN tariff of 8.8%. However, is relatively protected through differentiated tariffs. To Bolivia, Ecuador, and Peru, Colombia was a founding member of the Andean or the CAN, and Colombia's tariff policy is therefore a framework and guidelines, and is aligned with the CAN Common External Tariff with certain exemptions.
So for the conclusion and recommendation, so in Colombia, so during the Q4 2020, Colombia's export decreased value of 2.3 US dollars and for oil, despite early signs of domestic economic activity. Imports decreased by 12.9%, billion US dollars. These results were partially offset by income transfers. Compared with 2019, the 2.4 billion US dollars so the account deficit were driven factor income expenses and smaller merchandise deficit. So for the Philippines, following a drastic drop in merchandise last April, which saw a contraction of 49.86%, and an even steeper drop in merchandise imports of 6.27%, both and imports have seen some modest improvements, although imports still have a long way. Exports grew by 3% in November, imports by 18.90% year-to-date, lower than the previous year, which in having 0.8% less than in the year 2019. So that is all. Thank you all for watching.